Right now, within arm's reach of you, there's probably a little jar of it. You sprinkle it on your fries without a second thought. And you think salt is, well, just salt. It isn't. The white stuff in your shaker is one of the most industrial substances on Earth, and the world makes so much of it that a single year's pile would tower over the Great Pyramid. Let's build that mountain. Start with the number. Every single year, humans pull about 300 million tons of salt out of this planet. Not for cooking, for everything. And here's the first strange thing. The salt in your kitchen, the shaker, the chips, the entire food supply of 8 billion people is barely a tenth of that pile. Around 10%. The other 90? You never see it. It's hiding in your walls. It's on your winter roads. It's inside the plastic you're holding right now. But where does a mountain of salt even come from? Three places, really. Some of it we still harvest the ancient way, flooding shallow ponds with seawater and letting the sun and the wind boil it off until the salt crystallizes on the floor like frost. India and Australia make it like this, out under an open sky. Some of it we dig. Hundreds of meters underground sit the dried-up beds of oceans that vanished millions of years ago. Enormous slabs of solid rock salt. And we carve them out in tunnels, room by room, the same way you'd mine coal. And some of it we drink up from below. Pump fresh water down into a buried salt bed, let it dissolve, then suck the brine back up and boil it dry. Three methods, one white powder. Now let's see how much of it we actually make. Take one country. The United States makes about 40 million tons of salt a year. Pour it all into a single pile on the ground. Now salt won't stack straight up. Loose, it slumps into a cone, just like sand. So picture that cone. It rises 165 meters into the sky. That is taller than the Great Pyramid of Giza. Its base spreads more than half a kilometer across, wide enough to swallow 20 football fields. One country, 1 year. One mountain you could see from clear across a city, and it wouldn't even last. A mountain of pure salt is strangely fragile, and the first serious rainstorm would begin dissolving it from the top down until the whole white monument simply melted back into the ground it came from. And the United States isn't even number one. China makes the most by far. India runs neck and neck with America near the top, pouring out its own 30 million ton mountain, 150 meters tall, almost as monstrous. Stand them side by side, and the American pile beats India's by about 15 meters. That's the height of a 5-story building, made entirely of salt. And remember, almost none of this is going anywhere near your dinner. So if it's not food, where does it all go? Here's what almost nobody thinks about. The single biggest use of salt on Earth isn't the kitchen, it's chemistry. About 40% of it gets ripped apart on purpose. Factories split the molecule to pull out chlorine and caustic soda. Those two become the skeleton of the modern world. The PVC pipe behind your wall, the glass in your window, your paper, your soap, your medicine. There's a ghost of dissolved salt in almost every room you have ever stood in. And then there's winter. In cold countries, America, Canada, Germany, up to 40% of all the salt produced never gets refined at all. It just gets dumped by the truckload straight onto the highways to melt the ice under your tires. Think about that for a second. We carve a mountain out of the earth and throw it on the road. But chemistry and de-icing are only the beginning. Salt softens the hard water running through your pipes. It fixes the color into the dye of your jeans so they don't bleed in the wash. It gets pressed into mineral blocks that cattle lick in the fields. It even helps clean the very water you drink. Over the centuries, this one plain white mineral has quietly wedged itself into almost every industry humans have ever invented. Which raises a stranger question. How would you even move a year of this stuff? Take just America's 40 million tons, loaded into train cars, the big covered hoppers, 100 tons each. You would need 400,000 of them. Now hook every single car together into one unbroken line. That train would stretch 7,200 kilometers, long enough to cross the entire United States from New York to Los Angeles, and then turn around and drive all the way back. One train, for one substance, for 1 year. It would wrap nearly a fifth of the way around the whole planet. And then we do it all again next year, and the next, and the next. Now here is where it gets almost unbelievable. This stuff, the cheapest thing in your kitchen, the thing we literally throw on the ground, was once worth its weight in gold. 2,000 years ago, the Romans built a whole word around it, salarium, money tied to salt itself. And that is the root of the word you use for your paycheck today, your salary. Go to West Africa 1,000 years ago, and traders would swap salt for gold, ounce for ounce, the exact same weight in each hand. In the markets of Timbuktu, salt was treasured like gold and like books. People crossed deserts for it. Empires were taxed on it. Wars were fought over it. For most of human history, whoever controlled the salt controlled the people. Because before refrigerators existed, salt was the only thing standing between a town and starvation through the winter. And today, it's the thing you spill on the table and don't even bother to wipe up. But all of this, every mountain, every train, every grain we have ever mined, is almost nothing. Because there is a place that holds more salt than we could ever touch. And it's right there. It's the ocean. Dissolved invisibly into seawater, the oceans hold a truly staggering amount of it. Pull every bit of it out and spread it over the land. It would bury every continent on Earth under a layer 500 meters deep. Read that again. Enough to drown the continents. And here's the number that genuinely breaks your brain. At the rate we use salt, it would take us 155 million years to drain the ocean dry. Humans have existed for about 300,000. We could mine salt for 500 times longer than our species has even existed, and we would barely scratch the surface. And the strangest part of all? We never actually lose it. When you eat salt, your body doesn't keep it. You sweat it out, you flush it away. It drains into the rivers, and the rivers carry it right back to the sea, back to exactly where it began. Salt is the one thing this planet recycles almost perfectly. The grains on your fries tonight may have already passed through a Roman soldier's hand, through an ocean, through a mountain, through 1,000 bodies before yours. It just never stops moving. Which leads to one last thought experiment, and it's a dark one. Imagine you could somehow rip all the salt out of the ocean at once. All 45 million billion tons of it. In theory, the planet might never recover. Lifting that much weight off the seabed could set off earthquakes and volcanoes. The water left behind would be lighter and less stable, and scientists think it could throw the ice caps and the ocean currents that steer our climate into chaos. And the sea life? Within hours, much of it would simply die, their cells bursting from the inside out. So the salt you barely notice isn't just seasoning. In a very real sense, it helps hold the ocean, the climate, and you together. So look at that little jar one more time, the one within arm's reach of you right now. It feels like nothing, a pinch, an afterthought. But it built empires, it paid armies, it runs the chemistry of the modern world, and it sits dissolved in an ocean vast enough to outlast our species 1,000 times over. The most ordinary thing on your table is one of the most extraordinary substances on Earth, and you have probably never once stopped to wonder how it got there. Most of us never do.